Hey, I am getting ready for my blog TV, but I wanted to make a kind of a short video on the subject of morality. I see that Tattoo Skin 72 has made a video on the subject, and Variablast has several great videos. Well, all of the videos, Tattoos and Variablasts are great on the subject. And since I don't have an original thought in my head, I thought I'd just no. I'm gonna my interest in morality actually has to do with well, I have an interest in it scientifically, but looking at the sociological aspects of it from the biblical standpoint. That's kind of it's interesting topic to me. Again, I've mentioned before. I post not too often, but occasionally on EVC forum, and there's been a lot of talk about a couple of different threads on morality. One thread was questioning whether or not, since what sexual perversities are you atheists into, since you don't have any accountability, was one of the threads, which was pretty funny actually, I thought. And there's been a few other ones on this topic of was it atheist attitudes, about why atheists are so terrible at debate that we always descend into just name calling and whatever. Anyway, that all aside, one of the things that comes out in those kinds of discussions with fundamentalist Christians, and I want to make sure when I say the word Christian, again, and this carries virtually, unless I state differently in videos, when I might slip and just say Christian, I'm really referring to biblical literalists, a small segment of fundamentalists, biblical literalists, evangelicals. Okay, I'm not talking about the majority of Christians. I'm talking about that slice. It seems like there's a lot more of them than maybe there really are because they're loud. But anyway, the thing that keeps coming up with these evangelicals or fundamentalists is this idea. They make the stupidest statements about God's law being, constitutes objective morality, and man's laws are subjective morality. And you'll often hear that, and it's just this thing. And I think they, when they drilled into their skulls for the Borg implants or something like that, they hardwired that into their minds, because they almost always will say that. You'll hear these expressions like, God's laws are eternal, man's laws change with the times, and this kind of crap. And it's the most ridiculous, stupid thing that you can shred with just small little examples, but when you do, they sparks come out of their ears, and they sometimes collapse into a heap. No, actually, they put their fingers in their ears, and they refuse to listen to you, or they call you a name. Seems to be the typical response. But this is the funniest part about it, is that they'll tell you God's laws are eternal, man's laws change with the times. And then you say, well, what about Exodus, about keeping slaves? How is that moral? And they're like, oh, no, those were different times. Like, so wait, God's laws change with the times? No, God's laws are eternal. Like, well, then slavery. At one video I saw, one of my faves lists, somebody should be able to go out, and if their neighbor's a foreigner, they should be able to go take them as a slave, right? Says so in the Bible. God's laws never change. But they say, oh, no, those laws, Jesus fulfilled those laws, so they don't have. It's like, but God's laws are eternal. They don't get that. There's this disconnect between these concepts. But back to Bob Altemeyer again. What he said about being able to hold contradictory opinions. God's laws never changed. So when you see an example of where they changed, God's laws changed in that case, but God's laws never changed, and they're able to hold these opinions at very different times. Or they make some stupid. The worst justification for the Levitican laws were that, well, God was really opposed to slavery, but he thought, well, humans are going to have slavery anyways because they're flawed and broken creatures. So if they're going to have slaves, we might as well make, the best of it, make it moral, keep them from abusing their slaves too bad, and that kind of stuff. Which doesn't make any sense, because God could have said, thou shalt not own another intelligent being. Intelligent beings are not property. He could have said any number of things. He could have said, don't fuck little children. He never said that. These kinds of things. It would have been really, really simple. I would imagine that these Bronze Age people would have obeyed virtually any commandment from their thunder god or whatever he was. So he could have, if his morality was really this higher ideal that holds true to this day, now I would have expected a whole lot more out of him. Anyway, just kind of rambling on. I apologize. But I think it fascinates me how you constantly will see these things, and yet you'll constantly hear. It's almost as bad. One of the things, and I got into an argument with somebody a few years ago on this subject. I mean, it was pretty heated verbal argument, because they made the concept that about man's laws not ever changing, and they argued that what makes the Constitution so brilliant is that it's based on God's laws. And I was like, really? It's based on God's laws? Like, what laws are that? He's like, the 10 Commandments. I'm like, show me in the entire Constitution where the 10 Commandments can be found, where any aspect of the 10 Commandments can be found. Is it I am a jealous God, thou shalt have no other gods before me? Oh, no, I don't see that. Is it respect the freedom of speech? No, wait, that's not there either. Where is it? And he's like, well, it's the gist of it. It's like, there's no gist of it anywhere. It's just a ridiculous statement. And I think it's just what I think is that, they hear that from the pulpit and they just sit there in their little pews going, and that's as far as they think about it until they repeat it one day at work to somebody, and somebody who's like says, "What the fuck? That doesn't make any sense at all," and calls them on it, and they have no answer because they didn't think about it when they heard it. They just accepted it and then they regurgitated. It's like creationist arguments and things, the same kind of stuff. It's just they don't think through. They're just little catchy things. Kind of like I had to laugh. You guys remember during the 2004 election when John Kerry and I remember this relative kept saying, "Well, I just don't like John Kerry. He's too much of a flipper flopper." And I was like, "Flipper flopper? What a weird thing that is to say." And in the span of I don't know, a paragraph's worth of speech, the guy used the word flipper flopper 8 times, and I'm like, is that just a fun word to say? People just you hear that Rush Limbaugh say that word, and it's just fun to say flipper flopper, flipper flopper. I mean, you guys are fucking infants. Anyway, likewise, some of these catchy little statements, that they can spout. Anyway, I guess that's probably enough rambling. I don't know. I will talk to you later. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys, Blog TV in looks like an hour and 20 minutes. Hopefully it'll work. This kind of, the lighting's weird in here. I have a nice light that I use when I make my videos, and I turned it on and it popped and died, which is, I don't know if maybe God doesn't want this to happen. No, I'm kidding. He does. I'll talk to you guys later.